Got it.
Hey everybody, Manny Garavito here for the return of the Miami Networking Podcast. And I'm joined with a very good friend that I met at a networking event recently at the SLS Happy Hour, which is every Wednesday from 6 to 8. Ulas Atay, a brand new person that just moved into Brickell, one of the most creative people I've seen in the cinematography space. But it's not just cinematography. Also, he helps corporations put their brand in the front lines of the media that is evolving constantly online. Ulas, thanks for joining me. I
Thank you.
really appreciate not only meeting you, but our friendship as well. Tell me about Global Creative and what it is you do.
Well, basically, Manny, I mean, like, first of all, it was a pleasure to see you. And I have to say that I support your work. It's just great what you do. Like, everything you do, there's a quality to it, there's a vision to it, and the people that you bring together, it's so valuable. It's good to have people like you. And I'm very happy that we got together and that I saw your work, you saw my work, and I hope we can do more work together. It would be amazing. So coming back to your question, I have a, it really depends, I guess, on which family background also you come from. I always kind of trace it back to my roots. What your interests are and what you can do. For example, my father in my life was always a very important factor, right? So he always wanted me to be a journalist, to write books, to do creative work, and I have been, pushed or supported to do that all my life. And I guess that's part of my creativity or my business drive. It comes definitely also from that side. Not only at the end of the day you have to keep on going and have to do your thing, but it is a matter that it's something that I always value, and it's something where I always go back and get the power from to continue. But like, in order to tell you a bit about my background, so basically, I started off as my father had a publishing business. He was writing school books mainly. So I joined him very very early and saw how he put those books together, meaning coming up with the topics, bringing the creatives together, like the ones who would do the illustrations, the one who would do the printing, the ones who would do the corrections, and so on and so forth. So at a very young age, I could see how you could create work, and how at the end of the day it would become something amazing. It could be printed and it could be sold and it could be touched. So this is how I learned, how to do creative work. And then I started working for media companies. So I used to work for radio channels, worked for newspapers, worked for TV channels, worked for creative agencies, worked as a global marketing director. I mean, in the meanwhile, I've gone through life for a couple of years. So it has been a project. But to sum it up, I think, one of a strength that I have is definitely, like, having a creative mindset and coming up with new solutions and combining it with a business mindset and see where we can make money out of it and how we can make it grow. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I really believe that when it comes to creativity, that's going to be the currency of the internet now. Like, how are you going to stand out? How are you different? How are you authentic? And can you do it often? And so, creativity, when you look at everything that's being posted online, I think there's a certain small percentage of creative work that gets stood out of all the others in a particular industry. But why cinematography out of all the things that you've worked on before? Why did you choose that angle?
I mean, I think cinema is so much, or a cinematic approach is so much richer, right? Because you have all of the tools that you need to get a message across and to really capture a viewer. So you have the voice, you have the visuals, you have the sound, you have a story that you can tell. So it is, and the only thing that's missing is basically smell. But everything else, and touch maybe, but everything else you do have. So for me, it was very complete. And also coming from, like 80s, 90s, but of course also going back and seeing movies from the 70s and 60s and really going deeper into it. It was always fascinating. I have to say I lost a little bit of the fascination for film. Before I could watch a movie for hours. Now with the phone, it's easy for me to drop out. I have to be in the cinema to really watch something. But before, it was pure fascination for this communication tool, so to say. It was amazing. So I always wanted to do it. So I learned how to do it, and I can pride myself in the ability to work with big teams and to set it up on a big scale, but also do it all by myself if that is needed.
Yeah, and you've worked in a lot of various other countries, which also helps out with your creativity, I'm sure, because the kind of novelty and the culture and the values that they have, you got to find a very particular angle, and it also shows you how you can cross over that angle to other cultures and countries as well. Can you touch on your background in travel and where you've worked before?
Yeah. So I mean, first of all, I have a multicultural background. Recently I did a DNA test, and I have like 9 racial patterns. It's interesting to see, like, how we're standing on the shoulders of giants, the millions and millions of people that made us, and how they came uh, you know uh, into life, and how we are basically the pinnacle, the top of the iceberg, so to say. So I mean, I always had a very global view on things. I believe that we're all one at the end of the day. I believe that all humans, and also many animals, have the same approach, the same feelings, maybe even the same thoughts. So I believe that there is an essence that kind of like touches everybody, and if you can get that essence across, and if you can understand it, your message and your business will be strong. I worked in more than 30 countries in the last 20 years. In the last 7 years only, I've worked in 22 countries. I recently had to renew my passport and really count it. So that basically helps. Like you say, you can reset. You can talk to people. You can always have new influences. Anyway, one of the things that I can't do, I don't want to do, is be stuck in an office and do the same thing all over again, because that is basically really it kills your energy, it kills your drive, it kills your creativity. But going out definitely helps. And like I said, I think one of the things I can do is really get to the essence of things. That's why it's easy for me, not easy, but at least something that I always try to do and accomplish most of the time, to be able to be in America and do great work, but also maybe go to China and do great work. Because at the end of the day, if you really see how people work and how our emotions work, how our mind works, there's not much of a difference. It's just about the ability to get that out and to channel that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how do you channeling the essence of humanity as a whole, especially when you travel and you get to see all those cultures? How does that translate over when a corporation wants to distill some sort of personality that the brand itself comes alive? How do you go that angle when it comes to the work that you do, especially with the high-end brands you've worked with before?
I think I mainly focus on high-end brands. So I work for companies like Four Seasons, Hermes, Lamborghini, but also companies like Coca-Cola, Red Bull, and so on, and many more. I think I ask questions first. So for me, it's not about myself so much, but it's more about what has to be done. And I think a lot of people that are on the CEO level, or on CMO levels, or on branding strategy levels also see that. So I have a very strong strategic side to my thinking. So basically, I think it's all about like how we can satisfy the customer, and how can we satisfy the business. And if you ask these questions, and if you ask these questions really from your heart, I think you can't go wrong. If you try to do your own thing, or if you try to get your own art across, you might fail. But if you maybe even combine your capacities of an artistic view on things with the necessities of the business, then I think you're on the right track.
Yeah, I find that very fascinating to see how when you ask someone, what do you think of a particular brand, they start describing it almost as if it was a person, right? Without a face, but rather the experiences that that person made them feel, whether they liked the product or not. And when it comes to helping someone else kind of communicate that brand and kind of like falling in this in the similarities of what they're trying to do, and maybe helping them innovate or retain, or there's so many different angles when it comes to working with brands that taking the question approach is probably the most part of the process. What else do you do when you work with high-end brands? Like, walk me step by step how it is that you provide your services to them, how to finalize it, and how to deliver it.
I mean, there are different ways, right? I mean, sometimes the brands are coming towards you and they ask you, "Listen, can you help us with this?" Sometimes I will go to brands and come up with collaborative ideas and say, hey, why don't we mix this brand with that brand? Anyway, I think, one of the most exciting things in terms of communication, marketing, business development, whatever you want to call it, is the aspect of that we need to rewire ourselves. We need to rewire our thinking, because a lot of things that we see right now are so different, right? So and people are so easily bored. I mean, when I started with film, you could like hold a sequence for maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes. In the meanwhile, you cut sequences at 0.2 seconds, 0.3 seconds. So things have really changed. People get bored. People want to have, they want to be entertained. They want to be informed. They want to be all of that at the same time. So it has become a bit more difficult to really satisfy people. But I think one of the things that I like to do is to come up with collaborations, to come up with creative approaches and merge information with entertainment. And if you also then on top of that, can come up with an event where you have the fun, and where you see people, and where you can network, and not only have this digital screen in front of you, but like have the power of people, the energy of people coming together. That makes the mix perfect. Then it's really fun, and then it turns into a real fun project.
And when it comes to you creating the films that you do with these high end brands, how would you define? Because I've seen your reels and I've seen your website and I've seen the work that you do, and it's mostly luxury brands or personal branded pop stars that want to come off in a very particular way. How would you describe why the luxury brand industry has been so important or so prevalent in so many years and generations? What is it that you would, how is it that you would describe luxury branding?
I mean, luxury at the end of the day, for me, means quality. Luxury shouldn't mean snobbery. I think it means quality. If you really have, a Louis Vuitton bag in your hand, you feel like how much work went into picking the leather, creating, all the details. Or if you go to a 5 or 6 or 7 star hotel, like some hotels define themselves, you see, how the bedding texture is created, what kind of doors have been used, what kind of lights have been used. So, luxury is quality, and I like quality. And I think that, I want to basically, and that is maybe one of the reasons why luxury brands and what I do match, because, the aspect of quality, the aspect of detail, while still being smooth in your process of delivering, is one of the things that I can do very well. So I love working with quality brands. I love working with quality people, and that's what I'm trying to do all the time.
Yeah, it's all in the details when it comes to luxury and quality, right? I remember whenever I would go to a 4 or 5 star hotel, if you just look at any random corner, if you just look at the textures of certain tiles or ceiling pans or the way that they make your bed, like every single little detail adds to a very particular experience and how you recall that experience.
That's all it. I mean, it's also, I mean, once you've done it or seen it a couple of times, you see that it's all about detail, right? It's all about not only detail, but also the preparation of detail. Like it's basically thinking of the detail, preparing it, getting it together, and then making it work. And that's why luxury brands. That's what makes a luxury brand successful, and that's what makes us successful. Ideally, in an ideal scenario, but it comes with so much. It comes with culture. It comes with also you have that. I mean, the way you think, the way you talk, the way you act. It's the stuff that you come up with. It's not random. It is something that you have worked on, or your parents have worked on, or generations of your like of your family that wanted you to be on that level. Have worked on that, and you all combine that and bring it together. And if you do that right, and if you're lucky, it just works.
What do you think of, and this is more of a personal way of trying to get what you think on this idea that I've had before when it comes to creating something. What do you think is I would say, the connection between creating and curating, meaning building a collection of stuff that builds up your taste?
Um, I mean, creating and curating, obviously they're quite similar in the sense of curating might mean that you bring up that you bring things together that are of value, and creation is the same thing, somehow, that you bring things together that work. I mean, it's, you know how it is. I've basically, I just started writing a book about creativity. I finished a book about digital marketing, and like you said, creativity is so complex, or seems to be complex at this stage. Let me give you this example. At the end of the day, creativity somehow means taking given knowledge, but putting it together in a more creative way, so you have a, you know, more successful or different outcome. Um, but one of the most important things, like, beside that, I think, is also the magic moment. Let's say, you know, when making a film or when making a picture, I always leave room and wait for that magic moment. So you can have the best idea of the person coming in and this happening and that happening. But let's say, you know, waiting for the moment when when the bird flies through the screen, or like the sunlight hits the model, or, you know, like there's an amazing conversation going on. This magic makes it even like more valuable and more interesting, because you can create things that like seem to work, but they are kind of dull and dead. But if you kind of create and put in the moment of magic, I think that is powerful.
Right. And if you are able to combine a lot of magical moments into an overall experience, that elevates the experience itself. So let's say, you know, let's say if you watched a movie and there was a part that you really enjoyed on the way the camera was angled, and then you watched another, let's say, short film, and then there was another angle that you saw, or an introduction, and then you combine them in a way that's just innovative, all in one. And that is a culmination of all the tastes and previous things that have inspired you in a brand new creation, right?
It's magic. Yeah. When this happens, you know, you get goosebumps, and yeah,
Yeah.
everything works out and everybody's happy. And it kind of stands the test of time. You know, if you do stuff like that, even in 30 years, 50 years, if people look at it, they will be like, wow, you know, there was something that was going on there. There was deeper meaning, or there was more power behind it.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad that you're able to explain what I was thinking. So the more you stack up these details, the more you stack up your collection or your tastes into one magical moment, it just makes your creation so much more better. You know, I don't want to take too much of your time, Ulis. I know you're a very busy man, and I really appreciate you doing this. But tell me about your company, how people can reach out to you, and what the future holds for you, being a new local here in the city of Miami.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you want to set it up, but obviously you can reach me via mail or my website or my phone. I'm not sure if you're going to put it somewhere or if I should say it now, but let me know. But I'm very open for, like I said, collaboration also with you. I mean, we discussed a couple of ideas that maybe we want to put into action. So for me, it's really about, like, you know, life is short, and quality is also like rare. So for me, it's all about, like, you know, getting great minds together and doing great work. So whoever feels like doing that, I'm very happy to help. I'm very happy to support, and I'm very happy to build together.
And, you know, I'd just like to point out that Ulis, being the busy creative that he is as a brand new person here in Miami, he's very reachable. I believe his website is globalistcreative.com. You can get his contact information there. And Ulis, I hope to see you at an event real soon. And thanks so much for doing this podcast with me.
Manny, thank you so much for having me.
Of
Take good
course.
care. Very soon, maybe tomorrow.
All right.
All right.